Rutherford and his colleagues, and doing the gold foil experiment, they counted the number of times these alpha particles hit certain parts of the detector, and were given angles in degrees. What percent of these particles went straight through, or more or less? Well, 5% deflection is almost going straight through. In other words, they were barely deflected, if deflected at all. So we need to get the total here. So let's add these up, add these numbers up. That's our total. And then now we just want to know what percent was the 5%, or 5 degrees or less. So that's 8289000 divided by this number up here, which is our total, times that by 100 to get a percent. 92.90 is our answer for part A, right? 92.90%. So in other words, most of these particles, these alpha particles, went straight through the gold foil. Straight through. 92%. Now, part B is asking what percent were 15 degrees or less. These are all the angles that are 15 degrees and less. So we need to add those up and get the percent. Let's do that. Equals, right, that's all the particles that were deflected 15 degrees or less, and we're going to divide that by, where's my total here again, all the way at the top here, times that by 100 to get a percent. Yep, 99.89%, so almost all of them, as we learned. So this is the answer to part B, 99.89%. So almost all of them, went right through this gold foil. And part C is asking what percent of them were deflected 60 degrees or more. In other words, hit the nucleus, right? And as you can see, it's not that much at all. So these are the ones where, if this is the gold foil, then these are the ones that are like bouncing off 60 degrees, or even 75 degrees would be like there-ish, and over 105 degrees, not that many. In other words, the atom is mostly empty space. Punch these numbers in now. All right, now let's divide that by the total we got at the very beginning and multiply by 100 to get a percent. 0.00993. All right, so C, 0.00993%. So almost, very, very small percentage. So what does this tell us? What conclusion can we draw? More than 99%. Angles less than angles of 15. That's too many similar looking symbols here. Less than 15 degree deflection. So they went pretty much through the gold foil. These alpha particles. Okay, so these are your alpha particles, which were radiated from radioactive element like radium. Now, less than 1%, far less than 1%, deflected at angles of 60 degrees or more. So that's like there, or even greater than 100, like there. So conclusion is, atoms are mostly empty space, right? Conclusion, right? So we're going from the Thomson model. We're realizing, Rutherford and his colleagues are realizing it is not the correct model. We need to update it, right? Most of the mass is concentrated in a very small region. We call that the nucleus. And finally, there is most of the volume occupied by the electrons.